Hello out there everybody, how are you doing? My name is Rob, welcome back to Rule of Two Review. So on today's Star Wars video, what I wanted to do was continue a discussion that I started last time on the previous Star Wars video from a couple of weeks ago that I made. And in that video, we of course discussed who the Chosen One within the Star Wars 9-film saga might truly be. And of course, that conversation was sort of reignited in my brain and in a lot of folks' brains, based on the comments that Mark Hamill recently gave, discussing sort of where Luke Skywalker's head is at going into Episode 8, The Last Jedi, some of the history that he might obviously know that a lot of us as fans don't yet know about what he was going through in that 30-year period between Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, and then, of course, The Force Awakens, what happened with him and Kylo Ren, all of these things. Through the comments he gave us, he alluded to the fact that Luke apparently believed possibly that Kylo Ren at some point was the true Chosen One. Now, what I and a lot of other Star Wars fans found interesting about that was the idea that the Chosen One was actually being continued. The storyline, the idea of the Chosen One, I should say, and the prophecy that we first learned about in the prequel trilogy, in The Phantom Menace, might still be carrying some weight and some relevance within this new sequel trilogy taking place 3 decades after the end of Return of the Jedi, after the conclusion of the original trilogy. That gets me very, very excited. And in that video, I of course discussed who is really the Chosen One. Is Star Wars, just like Lucas started to do when he was still making the films, are they trying to trick us and throw us rope-a-dopes? Is the Chosen One truly Anakin, like the prequel trilogy tells us? Is the Chosen One supposed to surprise, actually be Luke instead? Is it actually Kylo Ren? Was Luke right for a time when he thought that? Is it possibly Rey? I think that there could be a good case that they might try to make Rey the Chosen One, and I would be very happy with that if they do the right things, because Rey is an incredible character. I love her so much, and I would love the idea that she turns out to truly be the Chosen One. Ultimately, I feel like the Chosen One is more than likely, at least as we know now, either Luke or Anakin. It's probably Anakin, but I like to subscribe to the theory that it's Luke. Again, I discussed all of these things on that last video. However, there's another element that I didn't really have an opportunity to touch on in that video, and in the weeks since that video, I've learned and heard a couple of other things. Some of my own personal research and things I'm doing in some of the novels here have actually started to make me wonder if there might be one other person who could truly be the Chosen One. So it's pretty obvious who it is that I'm talking about, and it's Leia. Princess Leia, General Leia, Leia Organa, the Queen, the Princess, the best of the best. Leia Organa. And it's a really exciting prospect when you think of that. However, what I'm doing today is not so much discussing if Leia is truly the Chosen One or is going to be the Chosen One, but in sort of a sad topic, I want to discuss if her path was to eventually have been the Chosen One. Of course, plans obviously are changing with this new trilogy, and sadly with the character of General Leia, because we know Carrie Fisher passed last year, which was just miserably horrible and awful. And, you know, my girlfriend and I did, of course, attend a Star Wars Celebration. We were in the room during the 40th anniversary panel, which was incredible. But then, of course, we saw George Lucas give sort of a speech about Carrie, and then her daughter, Billie Lourd, came up and gave a speech about Carrie. John Williams was there and surprised us all and played Leia's theme initially, which had everyone crying. Between George, Billy, and John Williams, it was just insane, the tribute that they gave to Carrie at the end. So we're all still reeling from the fact that we have lost her, which also means we can't get the conclusion of what they planned for with Leia's character in the sequel trilogy. So why am I even bringing this up today? What is it that I'm getting at? So I'm taking some cues from some of the interviews and the pieces of news and quotes that we've heard about the new sequel trilogy from folks like Kathleen Kennedy, Rian Johnson, even J.J. Abrams when making his film, and everything we know about what's supposed to be happening going into The Last Jedi and preparing now for whatever the heck is going to go on in Episode 9 in 2019. Some of the things that we've been able to glean from conversations and quotes from the filmmakers in the years since this trilogy started has been sort of what the base plan for the original characters was throughout this trilogy. The unfortunate news is that we've sort of learned that they never had a plan for this trilogy as far as story, which I think is very depressing and has led to some of the creative arguments and problems we've seen with this new sequel trilogy. But if we put that part aside and we just think about the couple of things we know they did plan out, there are a lot of things that sort of lead us to believe that Episode 7, The Force Awakens, was supposed to be Han Solo's story. Episode 8, The Last Jedi, is probably, and it seems like, is supposed to be Luke Skywalker's story. And then episode 9 was going to be Leia's story. And I find that really interesting. And there's part of me that really dislikes the idea of segmenting it in such a way as opposed to just making it all organic and flow the way it's supposed to, while still giving proper time for the new characters who are the true stars of this new trilogy. At the same time, there's some of that I do like, because, I mean, come on, we're talking about the original 3, the royalty of Hollywood and the royalty of Star Wars, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford. It's a great concept, at least on paper, to give each one of them their own movie that focuses on their story. Through that, knowing that episode 8 was supposed to be Luke's story and episode 9 was supposed to be Leia's story, what was it that they had planned for her that we now know they aren't unfortunately able to finish and conclude? And that's what I start to wonder is maybe the original intent for episode 9 was for us to learn in that film that Leia, of all people, Leia Organa, who's truly a Leia Skywalker, even though we never say those words, Leia Skywalker, but she is the son of Anakin Skywalker, of Darth Vader, maybe she was supposed to have been revealed to us as the chosen one. Now here's the thing, what I can't say is whether or not that would be a great idea or a terrible idea. It would really depend on how they executed it. I can only say that I certainly don't hate the idea. Leia's an incredible character, and if you think about this story concluding, going all the way from the events in The Phantom Menace, throughout all the trilogies, and to the end of whatever happens in Episode 9, and all the things we see Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Rey and Finn and everybody go through in this new trilogy, to have also been able to conclude the original 9-arc saga with Leia being revealed to us as the chosen one, and whatever that might mean, would be really interesting. Now, what's tricky when you start to think about Leia being the chosen one is when you think of the chosen one in the realm of the Force and what the prophecy was speaking about, a Jedi, a Force-sensitive being, you think of somebody who more than likely would be a warrior. And it's not written in like in stone or anywhere that you'd have to be a warrior or a lightsaber combatant to be the chosen one in the Force. But I think that's what a lot of people think about. That's what the films have tried to show us. And I think a lot of people, even myself, would probably expect to see that. And when you think about a Leia, who would be, in her 60s or 70s, the character as of Episode 9, the actress also being in her 60s or 70s as of that time, not to mention a character who, up until that point, would never have been trained in the ways of using a lightsaber or fighting physically, it would be sort of tough to envision that. So how could she have been proposed to us as the chosen one? It would have to be somebody who was strong in the Force, in the mind, and in the actual ability to use the Force and control the emotions of those around her. And when you read Bloodline, you start to understand maybe it's her political influence that is how she wields her powers in the Force, even without realizing it. Bloodline, probably my number 2 of the new Star Wars canon novels. I am currently in the middle, not in the middle, I'm in the first, third of Leia, Princess of Alderaan. It's incredible, and from what I understand, without spoiling anything, I do think we kind of sort of dive into the ideas of how the Force might play into Leia as a person. Bloodline does not discuss that at all. That's the one thing I will tell you. Bloodline does not talk about her using the Force. But apparently that's part of this novel, and I wish I could speak more on it, but I haven't finished it. I'm a slow reader. It's going to take me another couple of weeks, sadly. But you start to realize that, okay, this book discusses how the Force might be influencing Leia, and there's the upcoming huge novel called Star Wars 40 Years, A Different Point of View, or From a Certain Point of View, a collection of short stories. I've heard a couple of things that lets us know that maybe there's even another story about Leia in that book that will kind of talk about her influence with the Force as well. So it kind of makes me wonder, was Lucasfilm planning on sort of giving us reasons to believe that throughout her whole life, especially in the political realm, that Leia was actually more in tune with the Force than she even realized, even though she didn't know about the Force, well, not know about the Force, she didn't know she was Force sensitive, she didn't know she was the daughter of Darth Vader, the brother of Luke Skywalker, she would never have trained herself knowingly in the Force, but maybe it was happening this whole time, and it's possible that what they wanted to do was conclude the story and give her her own movie where it turns out that she was the chosen one and was a very strong Force-sensitive person. She's the only person of the Skywalker lineage and of all these important characters throughout the Star Wars saga that we've never really seen delve into the idea of being Force-sensitive or using the Force or acknowledging the Skywalker past, although you do get some of that actually in Bloodline as well. And I just think it would have been really neat. And when we hear that they had such a big plan for Episode 9, a big plan for Leia, and obviously Carrie passing is changing it so much that they're firing directors and getting old directors on board and everything happening there, maybe it's because they were so focused on making Leia the chosen one in this end film that now it really messes everything up to not be able to do that. Of course, this is just one man and one Star Wars fan's theory and concept as to what the plan for Episode 9 and Leia specifically might have been. There is a massive chance I'm wrong here, and that was never the plan, and Leia's story concluding in 9 could have meant to be something completely different, more in her relationship with Luke and herself, or even, of course, you know, we're going to have to see her deal with the passing of Han in Episode 8, so maybe there's a different, more of an emotional climax with her character, or an emotional and a political, military climax. She's obviously leading the Resistance right now, going into 8, so she's going to have a huge part to play no matter what the events are. But I think it's interesting and kind of fun to think about the Star Wars saga finally letting us see some of the deeper Skywalker connection within Leia's character, the fact that she'd have to be in tune with the Force in some way, and maybe they wanted to trick us with what the prophecy was about the whole time, and sort of rewrite it to tell us that it was going to be Leia. So either way, just a conversation and a theory for fun. Very curious what a lot of you guys out there have to say. Does the theory make sense? Would you have liked to see that happen if that was the case? Do you think it's a horrible idea and you're like, heck no, I don't want nothing to do with that? It's either Anakin or Luke. Most people want it to be Anakin, which again, it probably is Anakin. Although I love the Luke theory. That I really subscribe to the Luke thing. But either way, like I discussed, I don't think Lucas ever meant to tell us exactly who the Chosen One was. By the time you see the first 6 films together, I think you're supposed to see both of them as possibilities and just sort of go there and come to your own conclusion. That's the way I see it. But regardless, what do you think about Leia coming into Episode 9? What do you think about Episode 8 coming up soon? All of these different things I discussed below. Who is really the Chosen One? What was the prophecy actually trying to tell the Jedi? Discuss it all below. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.